Welcome, everybody, to Kerrigan and Company. So glad you could be with us for this episode, and I'm so glad about the person who's keeping me company, who trekked all the way from New York on this day that we're recording to make sure that he could be here with us. He has made a living talking to actors and actresses. He's made a living being an actor, and he's also an incredible author, and I'm so happy that he is here with me today. Nelson Aspen is here. Good to see you.
Thanks for making me part of the company, Kerrigan.
You are keeping me company today.
It shouldn't have been a trek. It really shouldn't have been, except that at 10 o'clock last night, from my happy home in Harlem, Amtrak sent me a text saying...
They were kind enough to send you a text.
Your train is indefinitely is the word, delayed. So I booked a second one, and then that was indefinitely. Anyway, I got here. I'm a little wrinkled, but I made it.
You look fantastic, and I so appreciate you doing that. Amtrak, it's got its really great points, but then it's got its moments where
Better than Newark Airport.
Hey, listen, you hit the nail on the head there.
Somebody said, well, why don't you just fly? I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Right, exactly. You'd be better off going out and hitchhiking, I think, before you do that. Listen, introducing you, I was thinking about this actually driving here to the studio today. I mean, you have a resume that is incredible, Nelson. And I've said this to other who have been here in the studio before. I am always so impressed with people who have careers that were sustainable and could have sustained them. And you can count them on your fingers. I have one. I have a career that has been good to me, but it is amazing.
I'll dispute that later on. Keep going.
You have shifted, and it's amazing. So let's start from the very beginning of this incredible career. You started really as a journalist.
I started as a child actor.
Okay.
And when I went through living in New York City in the 80s, I wrote, my memoirs actually are called Dancing Between the Raindrops, because living in New York City in the 80s was an act of dancing between the raindrops. And I was an aspiring actor. Broadway didn't happen for me, but I did all the New York City soaps. That was the heyday. The 80s were the heyday of the New York City soaps. But once I'd exhausted that, where was I to go? And I went begrudgingly to Los Angeles. I had no interest in Los Angeles. And I ended up there for 22 years. And I now fondly say, 22 years in L.A., you get less time for murder. But I did it. And it gave me my journalism career.
Right.
Which unexpectedly has won me awards. It has gotten me book deals. It actually got me singing recognition, which I was pursuing in my teens and 20s. And there I am as a 40 or 50-year-old man singing at the Sydney Opera House or London's West End. So TV, and you understand this as well as anyone, TV afforded me opportunities that I wanted but could not have achieved unless I had just been the guy on TV. I wasn't the most talented singer or actor or writer, but I was on television. And the power of what my mother referred to as the idiot box or the boob tube.
Yep.
But the power of that is phenomenal. And when you say to me, as you just said in that introduction, which was very lovely, that you just did one thing, no. Au contraire. You not only did that for a long time very well, even Laurence Olivier couldn't keep something fresh for that many years, but now you have pivoted, and here we are.
Right.
And you will continue to pivot because we are sharks. And if you don't keep moving, you don't live.
Right, absolutely. Well, it is amazing to me the different avenues that you have taken to succeed in your life. And sometimes I think you're the perfect example. We all think it's a straight line from A to B, and I think you are such an example of how that's not the case.
You got to pivot. You can't plan for this. I went to college. I had to drop out of college to take a job on a soap opera.
There you go.
And as long as I kept working, I never went back. So Lee Grant, remember Lee Grant, the actress Lee Grant? She wrote her autobiography, and I believe, if I'm not mixing up a word or two, I said yes to everything. And I encourage, when I talk to young people who say, oh, I want to do what you do, I'm like, you can't. I can't give you a blueprint for this. You can only make your own blueprint.
Sure.
By saying yes to opportunities, trying things, kiss a few frogs. You're never going to meet your prince if you don't kiss a few frogs. Yep. That's how it goes.
Failure comes with it, though, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's why there's happy hour.
Yeah, I do the same thing when I talk to young people. I tell them, don't think that and a lot of times these are college students, that maybe what you're going to do in a year is what you're going to do for a lifetime. You just have to be open to experiences. The world is your oyster, young person. Be sure you go out there and take advantage.
Isn't it fun? I never thought, I'm the youngest of 5 children, so I've always been the youngest. In my whole existence, I was always the baby. And now, not so much. And I kind of love it. I love being the elder statesman. And I had good role models in my parents where I like to be the wise old Uncle Nelson.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're doing a fabulous job. You mentioned this singing. I am so amazed. You have a cabaret show. You've won awards with your cabaret
I'm an award-winning.
I'm telling you, Nelson, I didn't even realize that you could win awards. I mean, and it's fabulous. Congratulations.
It wasn't
to
a
you.
Grammy, but it was a Broadway World Cabaret Award. I did a Tony Bennett tribute show last year, and that was fine. I had interviewed Tony Bennett in his home about his artwork. It was a very bespoke kind of interview. It was not about his singing or his fame. It was about his passion for painting. And it was so special that when he passed away, I was like, I've got this hot interview in his home. He was so generous with this. I'm going to turn this into a show where I'm not imitating Tony Bennett, but I will sing his arrangements and show the clips and tell the stories, and I had to follow that up. You can't win Best Show and not follow that up. So for 2025, I'm taking my new book and just cabareting-izing it.
I think it's a
word. I have to make that verb.
I think that's a verb.
I'm musicalizing my book into a cabaret show in July.
That's
just
fantastic.
to keep the wheels greased.
Yeah. Okay, so you started as an actor, as you said, then went into television and you started to sing. And along the way here, you have been a writer. Now, was writing something that you thought as a kid actor that would eventually come
I was writing
forward?
Novels on my little pads, while I was watching Wonder Woman and $6 Million Man. I was busy writing novels. But the books came about, again, just because I happened to be on television. I had a 30-year career in morning television as an entertainment reporter, interviewing all the A-list celebrities and doing all of that. So people just wanted to hear from me. And I would sneak out little tidbits about who I kissed and who was nice and who was naughty.
Sure.
So that led to my writing career.
Absolutely. So now we're 8 books in?
9.
This is
Kindred
number 9.
Spirits is number 9, and it's my first foray into historical fantasy because I've known, full disclosure, 62 in July, but I've known for all those 60 plus years that I had a connection to Titanic. And over the course of dreams, serendipity, deja vu, happenstance, coincidence, I pinpointed the obscure passenger. No, I'm not Molly Brown. I'm not John Jacob Astor. I'm not Captain Smith. I'm just this obscure passenger from Massachusetts named Milton Long. And I decided that Milton, who passed away at 29, his life was cut short. From the research I was able to do, he had a very unfulfilled and sad life. With all of his privilege, he was sad and unfulfilled. And I thought, maybe he's now here because I certainly am not sad. I am certainly not unfulfilled. And I can give Milton a little bit of fun. And the story is basically an odd couple story. You've got the repressed Edwardian with the flamboyant modern Manhattanite, and they've got to solve a mystery together. So it's history, but it's mystery.
Yes,
and it's naughty.
And it's I know it's naughty.
Naughty.
Yeah. Well, you got to have a little naughty. I mean, Page Turner, right?
That's my stage name.
Page Turner or Naughty?
Page Turner.
Okay. So let me just ask you now, a lot of it, though, is historic because you have been a historian, which there you go. There's another one of your many traits. You've been a historian through the years where Titanic is concerned.
Yes.
You know a lot
I
about
have a
it.
long background with Titanic, to the point of where now I co-host a very successful, who knew, Titanic podcast called Titanic Talk. And it was one of those things, we just did it for a bit of fun, and now we have the most important figures in the Titanic world, that's a whole universe of itself, as you can imagine, talking to us. We do Titanic conventions, and that's why I wrote the book. I wanted, where's my Titanic legacy? I know about Milton on the inside, but I needed to put it down on paper so that here we are 113 years later, and now Milton Long of Springfield, Massachusetts, is no longer a footnote. He now has a starring role.
So let me just ask you about Milton here, and we're gonna talk more. We're gonna have to take a break here in a moment because we've got another guest who's gonna be knocking on our door.
A singing guest.
Yes, but before we do so, do you believe that Milton has always lived in you, or have you learned about the Titanic and thus you believe that you could have been like Milton? Am I making that clear?
Yeah, no. I think
where do you think Milton has come to you?
I don't necessarily gravitate toward the metaphysical. That's not my thing. I'm much more of a pragmatist. However, when you have a series of dreams that match up with Milton's life, when people are mistakenly calling me Milton, I can't even go to Starbucks without saying, Milton, your latte's ready. I mean, it's 2025. Who's using the name Milton? And yet, it happens all the time. And in 1985, when oceanographer Robert Ballard discovered the wreck of the Titanic, which was monumental news, that week in 1985, he was the most famous man in the world.
Absolutely.
He was on the cover of everything, and I was like a snot-nosed 22, 23-year-old kid, and I was like, I got to get in touch with Dr. Ballard. I got to work on that excavation. And I somehow contacted him, and when he got off hold from the secretary that put me on hold, he said, hello, Milton. And that's when I knew it's real. Well, I can't deny it. It's real.
Yeah, I love the concept of the book. I just think it is, because there's historic facts and there's a whole lot of entertainment, and then it's one of those that just makes you stop and go,
And it's naughty.
And it's naughty.
You know, they did have sex on the Titanic. I can tell you.
We're going to talk more about the book, how you can get your hands on it, and there's something special happening here in Boston this week. So we're going to share that for those of you who are going to listen and watch the podcast as soon as it drops. So that's coming up in just a few minutes. But we've got a guest coming to join us.
Yep.
And as someone who really appreciates, Hollywood and singers and all those kinds of things, this woman at one point was Glinda on Broadway, and we all know what that voice is all about, right? So she's here making a Broadway debut in Boston in a show, and we're going to chat with her in just a moment. This is Kerrigan and Company.